go ahead and we'll leave the poll open for a few more seconds. We have 68% of us have voted. Come on, guys. I know you can do it. Okay, now we're at 78%. 80% have voted. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close the poll, and I will share the results with everyone. So I guess no one's interested in learning about anything else. Good thing you signed up for the right webinar. And it looks like a lot of us are really interested in some of these holiday concept live examples, but we also have a lot of people that are interested in 2017 planning and trends and challenges. So good thing we're going to be covering all of them. We do have a couple little plug slides here at the beginning. Promise it's not going to be a huge pluggy webinar, but have to do it. We're paying to put on the webinar, so we have to put our LiveClicker client plug slide. LiveClicker works with a lot of really great brands, doing a lot of cool things, real-time content inside of email. If you're interested in learning more about LiveClicker, you can go to liveclicker.com or realtime.email. And here are some of the great things that LiveClicker is providing for senders this holiday. Quick intros of our speakers. So I'm Justin Foster. Hey guys, nice to be chatting with you here on this webinar. I'm also going to be the moderator here today. I'm one of the founders of LiveClicker, basically responsible for marketing, thought leadership. Been in the email space a long time, been in email since 2002, know a lot about email, and excited to be with you here today. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Catherine, who will introduce herself. Catherine.
Sounds great. Thanks, Justin. A pleasure to be here, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I am the Vice President of Strategy and Analytics for Shaw & Scott, so we're going to talk a little bit about strategy and how planning for 2017, some of the things you need to consider. So that's what the team at Shaw & Scott does. We really partner with clients to help them, innovate and strategize and execute on those programs to achieve their goals. So looking forward to a lively discussion today. Thanks, Justin.
Cool. So Catherine, do you want to take us through the agenda here?
Yes, absolutely. So let's kick this off. Here's our agenda for today. So we're going to start by diving into the holiday 2016 email trends and challenges. We're going to go through that pretty quickly, and then really focus some time on inbox innovation, testing, and that 2017 planning insight. Are there things you can do in the short term to dovetail into 2017 planning, which is on the near horizon, as we all know. And then the exciting part, which in the poll we noticed, everyone's really interested in, really looking at some examples. How are these strategies and innovations being used in the market? And Justin's going to walk us through those real-time holiday concepts. So we'll look forward to going through that.
Great.
So let's dive right in. Holiday 2016 challenges. I kept this kind of simple, but I think we're all in the email space and cross-channel space understanding that these are some of the key things at play in the market. Number one, inbox attention is fleeting. And we know this is even more so during the holiday influx. I think I read something, and there's a lot of numbers floating around out there, but the increase in email last holiday season was about 25%, per the usual cadence. So we know that everyone's inbox is flooded during the season. We know that, the trying to gain that consumer's attention is tougher than ever, even more so during the holiday season. And the second bullet there, consumers are expecting personalized experiences. That expectation is climbing every year. Every marketing room I've been in, that's the key conversation is how do we use data, how do we use innovation, how do we use technology to personalize those experiences because consumers are demanding it. They're moving fast, and if you follow Think with Google, they talk a lot about micro moments and really needing to capture that consumer's attention at the right place, right time. And so personalization is a really key part of that. So in the moment experience is key to success. And this is really driven by the fact that, consumers are opening more than half of emails on mobile device. And this number is continuing to climb. You probably are all doing it yourselves. I know I am. It's just the way we live these days. We triage and look at things on a mobile device. Some, opportunity to connect the dots across mobile and email and desktop when it comes to purchasing. But mobile is really where most of the activity is happening. And if we look at some numbers from last holiday, mobile accounted for 60% of all online traffic on Thanksgiving 2015. And then 40% of all sales were completed on mobile devices. So I would expect we see that number. That's a number from ComScore. I would expect we're going to see that number climbing up and to the right as we head into 2016 holiday. Next slide, Justin. Thank you. So that leaves us with the big question for marketers, and this is something, we'd love to have these conversations and really understand what are your challenges, what are the key objectives for your unique business and your program. But across the board, one of the key questions that you hear over and over again, and I would hope some of you are kind of shaking your head, yes, this is kind of what we're thinking about, is how do you deliver those innovative, personalized messages and experiences that will drive more engagement and conversion? The big question, personalize, make that message more relevant in the moment. And that really just leads to even more questions. That's how these things go. When you get into really strategy and understanding programs, there's a lot to review. There's a lot of moving parts. So, one of the key questions is how do you focus your resources on elevating that consumer experience and adding that inbox value? It's a prioritization. You need to think about resources and how you're going to do that most efficiently. And then how do you personalize those experiences? What are the best ways to do that? How do you prioritize and make sure you're focused on the right things? So that involves, evaluating the vast array of opportunity and figuring out, where you want to focus the prioritization. And that's the next bullet. What can you do in the short term? Are there things that you really think are going to move the needle that should be tested? I think one of the trends today is, test things out, fail fast, try things, figure out what's working, make adjustments, and continue to iterate on that. And then that's going to get you to the last bullet there. What can you really learn during the season and apply to your 2017 planning process? So that's really where, we're starting to focus is, building these things into the plan longer term, developing test strategies, prioritization of those testing strategies, and having that iterative ongoing learning process underway.
Hey, Catherine, just a quick question for you, because I hear a lot of marketers are always talking about they want to create more personalized messages. We know that when messages are more personalized, they perform better, they drive higher engagement. But I do hear a lot of people, kind of struggle with this efficiency problem. Either, they just don't have the data, or it's hard to get to the data, or the data is not, formatted the proper way. Are there any kind of high-level sort of innovations that you've seen in the market to help marketers with this issue, or have you seen any approaches that you think are particularly good at solving that efficiency issue?
I think one of them is what we're talking about today. The opportunity to use data points such as location, weather, pull in elements that kind of relate back to that person's current place and time. So that doesn't involve, necessarily, kind of a significant CRM undertaking, but it's more, kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of data that can be put into action. So I would say, kind of as a phase one, look for these opportunities. Also, I think, doing a strategic data audit, there are a lot of organizations that have done this and done it well, and they're kind of on down the path of, these CRM initiatives to make the data more actionable. But I also hear from many others that are just starting down that path. So there are processes and methodologies that can help you get there, and that's something we do often at ShawScott with our clients, is kind of help them process through that and prioritize and come up with those key opportunities. So good question, a lot of moving parts, but there are a few thoughts on that front.
Cool. I was going to throw you a softball there. I was going to ask if that's something that ShawScott helped clients with, but now we all know. A couple of quick questions that have come in on the Q&A chat. Just want to make sure that we're addressing those. Can we make sure we cover what kind of ROI to expect? We'll definitely touch on that some when we get to the examples, and we'll also talk about measurement in terms of indicating success for different types of content in email for holidays. So, Chris, great question. And just a reminder for everyone else, please do pop your questions there in the Q&A chat box. We definitely want this to be interactive. We're talking about some real-time content today. We're going to be real-time with our interactions, so keep them coming in. Dev resources, we'll talk about this a little bit later. Chris, I'm not going to touch on that right now, but thanks for putting that question in there, and then we'll go ahead and move on. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so let's dive right in again. So, really what this allows you to do, and those are great questions so far, is strategic innovation and automation will help you elevate your email marketing program. So if you look at the box on the left-hand side, it's more basic. You've got a lot of focus on assembly and execution, not as much focus on, the strategy and definition of your marketing programs and the optimization. So we're really, this is focused on a shift of making these programs more advanced, putting more focus on that upfront strategic development and definition, and making the assembly and execution more automated, and then optimization and ongoing testing is really the focus area. So, the goal here is to use these technologies and innovations to make your job more fun and do some innovative things and things that are really visible to your consumers as well as to your, executive teams and other stakeholders, so that you can make your program really perform at optimal level.
I want to add something on this really quickly for folks because, number one, like Catherine, I couldn't agree with this more, 100%, like 1,000%. I think a lot of email marketers, we're just really busy. We've got a full campaign calendar. It's tough for us to execute new things, even things that we're excited about. But I can 100% say that when you take that more strategic approach, particularly when it comes to things like real-time content, and even in a holiday context where you've got ramped up cadence, you've got shorter timelines to get things ready, it's really going to benefit you so much more in the end because you're going to be able to see what works, what doesn't, and in what context. And that's something that can be very difficult to see if you're just running, one-offs without really understanding the context in which you're running different tests. So anyway, totally agree with this.
Excellent. So that's kind of the vision. So easier said than done, right? So there's a lot of moving parts. And I will say, I think we all need to pat ourselves on the back as email marketers. We are the team within organizations that's, been most familiar with data, putting data into action across programs. And I think stepping out into this innovation zone where we've got more interesting, innovative inbox experiences is really making the job more fun. But, the tools and data-driven approaches are something that the email team has really owned for a long time and has done a great job of kind of moving forward that more personalized experience. And here's even more opportunity to do that coming into holiday in 2017. So how do you move forward? So I just mapped out, some 4 steps to driving this holiday innovation in 2017 planning insights. So we'll walk through these really quickly. I know we want to get into the real life examples, but the 4 steps are, explore the opportunities across the consumer lifecycle and key programs. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. What are those key things we need to kind of start examining? And then the next is create testing hypotheses. So, what are the things you think you have an opportunity to learn? There are some key questions you can ask yourself about that consumer experience, line up those questions, and then prioritize them to figure out, where you want to start, where do you want to focus. And then third, obviously you need to start testing, learning, optimizing, and then repeating the process as you begin to learn more and you've got additional opportunities across the life cycle. And that's really going to queue you up for 2017 with some insight that you can use in the planning process and hopefully, really make that program shine in the holidays and moving into 2017. So Justin, with that go ahead.
Sorry, before we move on, just a quick question for you. So what about those marketers that, they've got a bunch of different programs that are running, they have different programs running across the life cycle, but if they want that mapped, in a quick and dirty kind of way, they say okay, map out all my programs, show me where the opportunities are. I'm assuming that's something that at Scott also you work with your clients on this type of activity to help them with that sort of map.
Absolutely. We do something that I've started calling a strategic innovation audit. So we look across the life cycle at opportunities to apply programs and new technologies and innovations. Maybe the program has been running for a while and you just haven't looked at it with fresh eyes in quite some time. So that's an opportunity to really step back and look at where the innovation can be applied. We're really focused on that and helping our clients deliver those excellent consumer experiences. So that's a way to do that. And then there's obviously more robust, full contact strategy engagements where we can really get in there and, look at the full life cycle, do a lot of data analysis and do a really deep kind of focus on audit and what the opportunities are. And that can cover a lot of things from the nuts and bolts and technologies you're using all the way to, what that, the personas and data-driven elements and and building out that big master plan. So there's a lot of ways to approach it depending on kind of where you're at in the evolution cycle. But yes, we absolutely love to do that with our clients and set them up for success.
I promise, guys, this wasn't going to be like a bunch of plugs. And like, honestly, like I'm just thinking of these questions like off the cuff, but I'm thinking because some people are so busy, especially in holiday, like this is where an outside, third-party provider can help out, or an agency can kind of help out with this stuff, because they can go back and they can take the big picture look while you continue to execute. So anyway, just a thought. Moving on.
Thank you. That's great. So where do we start? So exploring program time to value opportunities. So, it's interesting because I think a lot of times we just focus on the first one in the upper left-hand corner there, the promotional messages. So I know that, I've been seeing a lot of, countdown clocks, timers, those types of things. And that's a great start, and it's interesting to see those in the inbox, and, creates a little bit of a, interesting interaction, more dynamic. But there are opportunities across the life cycle, across all of these programs. So think about, even transactional messages. We have that sort of, rule of thumb that there's 20% of real estate in transactional messages that you can use to do a little more promotion if you're doing some cross-sell. Are there opportunities to weave in some real-time content to make that, a message work better for you? Is it live inventory recommendations? Even polling around what that next step is going to be for that consumer, all sorts of things. And Justin's going to go into some great examples coming up soon. But, think about the program types and what those opportunities are. And don't just limit it to promotional, but think about, all of the opportunities as a starting point. We can go to the next slide, Justin. And then really think about it, again, looking at this is a continuation of that thought process, but reviewing across the life cycle again, and there are sort of different focus areas for your organization. So for example, if you've got a newer subscriber base, you may be really focused on conversion and growing that base to get some kind of critical mass. For a more established business, you might have more of a focus on win back during the holidays. Maybe you have consumers that purchased from you last year or the year before, and you want to get them back into the mix and actively engaging with the brand and actively purchasing. So it's going to be different for every organization. But what's important is to stay focused on the consumer life cycle, where you can add the most value for your organization, and kind of relate it back to your marketing objectives when you're thinking about what should I test, where should I start. And then the fun starts. You get to start really asking key questions and creating hypotheses that are going to drive these tests and drive these programs forward. So I just put a few of them here just as, starter, as food for thought as you're going through this process with your teams. But, it really comes back to that moment of email open. What value are delivering to consumers? Where are the points in time that you can actually deploy these real-time email marketing innovations to add more value to that consumer experience and also boost your results? So here's a few examples, and I know Justin's going to show us a few of these real-life examples in a few minutes. But welcome and onboarding. If you've got content that is focused on the location and conversion, so is that something you want to drive stronger brand engagement for next conversion? Does live tracking of shipping actually reduce support costs and actually, keep your consumers engaged and really happy with the brand? And does live video engage lapsed customers to reactivate them? So there's an infinite number of these, types of hypotheses once you really start thinking about it. But again, aligning it with your business, your core focus areas and your objectives is really the place to start. And then, really just the blocking and tackling. Test, learn, optimize, and repeat. So the only way to get continued program optimization is to have, a methodology for testing. So, I just kind of listed these things out. I think most of you are doing testing, but, you ask the question, you form a theory. You've got to really focus in on those KPIs and establish the baseline. So I know Justin's going to talk about some of the ROI and metrics in a few minutes. So create that test, define the segments, build the creative, deploy the messaging, and measure and analyze, and then continue that process because, phase one proof of concept is one thing, but again, there's really great opportunities across the life cycle and across various types of programs that, these innovations and real-time content elements could really be playing a really big role in boosting consumer engagement. And then last but not least, you've gained this holiday performance optimization and planning insight. So what have you done by doing so? You've delivered your consumers a more personalized holiday experience. I think that's a huge one. That's where the focus needs to be heading into holiday 2016. You've got learning to kick off 2017 planning with actionable insight. Next is really building that prioritized strategic innovation roadmap, continuing to test, and really automating programs. So you've got moment of open data that you can use for scalable personalization. So that's it. I mean, I would say keep it simple, focus in on a few things that are, testable during the holiday season, and then kind of kickstart the 2017 planning process with some learning that you can leverage and build from. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Justin for the examples.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. This has been super helpful, I think, as a framework to succeed in 2017, 2016, and beyond. Quick reminder for everyone before we go into the examples, please do use the Q&A chat box. So far, Chris has been our lone participant in the Q&A. We're feeling kind of lonely over here on this side, so give us some company. Put your questions in there. I promise if you put a question in there, we're going to get to every single one. So don't be shy. Ask some questions. All right. So let's go ahead and let's look at what I would consider to be some quick wins for holiday 2016. And before going into each example, I really, really want to play off this idea of efficiency. I mentioned it, Catherine mentioned it earlier, I asked her about it, but one of the great attributes of leveraging real-time content in email is the fact that from an implementation point of view, it's just an image tag, you plop it in your email, you send it out with your email service provider, there's no vendor switches that you have to worry about, and most importantly, even if you don't have data on your recipients before you send the email out, you can still add a layer of personalization through context by understanding what Catherine was talking about, the place that someone's at, the time, the weather, the device that someone's using. So I think, honestly, this is one of the biggest no-brainer opportunities that a lot of us have for holiday 2016 to really drive engagement, especially with the ramped up cadence. Everyone's inboxes are super full, and very, very simple stuff. You can drive results in your email program. So the first example that I want to share here is weather targeting. So with weather targeting, this email here from LL Bean, there's two creatives. You serve one creative if it's colder than 45 degrees outside. You serve another creative if it's warmer than 45 degrees. So from a creative production point of view, it takes a little bit more time. You have to create two sets of creative instead of one. There's some stuff that you can do that's really fancy where you can dynamically pull this content from your website automatically. I don't know, for holiday 2016, it might be just easier to just create warm creative, cool creative, and then when someone opens up that email, even if you don't know anything about them, depending upon either A, what the weather is like when the person opens up the email, or B, what the weather is like in the future, say 2 or 3 days ahead, you might feature one item or another item. So again, even without data, super easy example where you can drive higher engagement in email, higher click-through rate, and of course, we all know personalized emails perform better than those that aren't personalized. Super low-hanging fruit, quick and easy win. Now this next one, and I think promotional win, by the way, good to use the promotional email, but also, you may want to think about something like this for, maybe even in your welcome program. You've got, maybe just make a quick change to your welcome template over holiday. That's a great way that, by the way, you can measure the effectiveness of this warm, cold type of thing over maybe a period of a couple months or maybe 6 weeks, rather than just with a single email. It's a good way to sort of measure the data over time. Now, the second item that I wanted to mention here uses real-time device detection, and just kind of back to Catherine's comment about 60% of all opens are happening on mobile in 2015, maybe even more happening this holiday, 40% of sales on a mobile. If you're one of those senders and you have 5% of your audience is super engaged, they're buying, they repeat purchase a lot, and then you've got 95% or 80%, they bought something a few years ago. This little technique right here is something called scratch to reveal. This is something that you can actually render a custom offer inside of the email without clicking externally on an iOS device. And iOS, for many of us, is our most popular email client where mobile opens. It's gamification within email, right? It's a way that you can sort of gamify email. And I think I might even have another example here that I can share with you. This is like one of my favorite examples here from Harley Davidson. Now, because I'm on a desktop, what I would do is I would click on a little scratch to reveal option in the email like this, and when I click it, it's basically going to take me to a page where I can reveal by rubbing. You guys see that? It's a cool experience, right? It's a way to add a little bit of fun to the email. And by the way, there was a question about ROI metrics. This one was actually run in a 50-50 A/B split, where half of the audience received the scratch reveal experience and half received just a direct link to go to the product page to learn more about the product. And in this particular one, there's a 46% higher click-through rate on the scratch reveal type of experience. And a few more examples for you here. Wanted to share the retail one. This is holiday webinar. Probably do have a lot of retail, but cross verticals, consumer goods. We have CPG, financial services, even for those of us that might have credit card offers or something like that. We'll be sending a copy of this deck out to everyone afterwards, so you'll be able to actually interact with these examples. Let me pause there really quick, and let's see if we have any more questions that are coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tackle one from you, Chris. What type of dev resources should you plan on when developing dynamic content? So this type of content we're focusing on here today, literally it is just an image tag, putting it in the email. Some of these experiences, we're going to talk about embedded video in a little bit, talk about polling. It's a little bit more complex than an image tag. You might want to work with a partner just to help you optimize a template for that. Not required, but definitely you can. But at the end of the day, there's no integrations required. It's basically just copy paste into your email template. Here's another question, and Catherine, I'm going to kind of toss this one to you here. What are some best practices to avoid the creepy factor when you do know a lot about your customer? What would you? That's a great question. What do you think about that?
It's a very good question. It's tough because I think what causes some of that is, you've got data-driven programs. A lot of things are automated. So I think at the end of the day, there are two things. You need to use the human, experience filter, and just think about your consumers, who they are, various personas, what their life cycle is with your brand, and really apply sort of common sense to the things that you think are going to be appropriate for them. And then use data. What are the results of the interaction? Are you seeing people unsubscribe? If it's email, are you seeing different trends? So the analytics and the measurement of what's the impact. Because we can use our human filters, but we also need to use those metrics to kind of help us decide, is this really a good interaction the consumer's having? How are they responding? And some of that will also come through social media feedback and just dialogue with consumers. So it's a tricky thing to manage, especially with all the automations. But absolutely, we need to keep a close eye on those things because it can do a lot more damage than good if you are truly presenting communications that are crossing that line a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And the only point that I would just further emphasize is just use common sense, right? If it would creep you out, then probably not a good idea to put it inside the email. All right. So one more question I want to tackle from Eric. Is to speak more specifically to the second part of the deliverability part. So from an image to text ratio, I actually don't know. However, a lot of our clients do use very image-heavy emails, with a very large hero at the top, or the emails are almost images top to bottom. And I can't recall a single incident. Doesn't mean that it hasn't happened, but I can't recall an episode or incident where anyone has reported any kind of deliverability issues from having image-heavy emails. provided that, of course, you're not delivering the payload of the image with the email itself. You're only rendering them once the email's opened up. And from the second piece, from a deliverability point of view, specifically within the context of using things that are not just images, but things like video or polling or animations, again, don't use any JavaScript inside of the email. Make sure you reference everything. Don't deliver the payload with the email itself. As long as you're following those best practices, you really shouldn't have an issue. So, Erica or Catherine, do you have anything you want to add to that, or should we move from that?
No, I think that covered it.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the question, Erica. Clarissa, I see you've put a question in here too. Want to make sure that we're moving forward. So again, we'll get to all the questions. We have Q&A at the end. Want to go ahead and keep moving through some examples here. So, I think the number one no-brainer for anyone that is shipping, that have a physical good, you're shipping it. Doesn't any kind of retail, any kind of physical product you're shipping. You've got rush shipping, free shipping, gift card, time-targeted images. And by the way, not just time-targeted images around shipping offers, but also time-targeted images around what is the current offer on your site now, what's currently for sale right now. Shipping is a definite no-brainer. The example here, basically, 25% of all emails that are opened up 24 hours or later after you send the email out. Think about that in holiday. You've got multiple emails every day. You don't want to have someone open up the email and see in the email, hey, it's free shipping. But guess what? If you click on it, go to your website, and now they can only get rush shipping. It's a bad experience. So no brainer. Rush shipping, gift card to correspond with the time that the email is opened up. It's a discussion about this because social feeds, this is basically a Pinterest feed, a live Pinterest feed. It updates when the email is opened. Every time the email is opened up, it's going to show like the latest Pinterest. Or maybe you have like an Instagram feed or something like that. What do you think about this, Catherine? I'm kind of on the fence on it, honestly, because I feel like this is a great engagement tactic, but when we're so promo heavy, I just don't know that this is a great thing for promotional emails unless these pins are very product specific, or maybe it's something that we're adding to our shipping confirms, or maybe something we're adding to our welcomes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it goes back to looking at the life cycle and where are the different points in time and the different kind of phases of that relationship with the consumer. And I think I definitely think there's a place and time for it when you want deeper engagement with your consumer across channels. Already, kind of become a valued customer. You want to kind of engage them and also have them become a part of the conversation so that you are able to generate user-generated content from them. But if they haven't engaged in your social channels, but I know that you had mentioned at the beginning of the comment that, there might be hesitation from a retailer during holiday to kind of send someone directly to, a social site. You want to kind of keep them focused on the task at hand, which hopefully is, doing a lot of shopping. So, but I do think, there are, again, it goes back to the strategies and the use cases and looking and applying these things in your brand and your business. Thinking it right place, right time.
Okay. So the next example, very popular. A lot of folks use countdown timers and emails as a way to drive urgency, especially during holiday season. Basically, the idea here, if you haven't seen timers before, they tick down the number of days, hours, minutes, seconds until your upcoming sale expires, free shipping is over, whatever it is that your timer is. So number one, if you want to drive a lot of clicks on the timer, make sure the call to action inside of the email. Otherwise, you're not really expect to see a lot of clicks on a timer. Second of all, make sure that when you're using timers that you're using them with different types of offers. For example, you may have a percentage off offer. You may have a free shipping offer. You may have a flash sale type of an offer. I've seen wildly diverging success metrics from a revenue, average order value, perspective. in all of those different situations. So the number one thing, if you're thinking about using timers this holiday, don't just do a one done. Make sure you're using them on at least a few, if not 5 or 6 types of offers in your promotional strategy. Another thing that you can do is think about using timers for replenishment. If you've got a type of product that needs to be ordered in like 5 months or 6 months, you can actually use personalized timers and emails that are counting down for the specific recipient based upon their past activity. So just a couple things for timers there. The next is maps. So 85% of our retail purchases are still occurring at bricks and mortar locations. Use a map. I would say this is a great thing to include in the footer of, honestly, like all emails, except for maybe some post-purchase types of emails, unless you're trying to direct somebody to a place where they can potentially return product. Best practice for maps. The technology that's used to render these live maps and store addresses inside of email relies upon IP address, not GPS. So a lot of times there's a tendency, we want to like zoom super in tight on the map right around where that branch or store location is. Try to keep that zoom out a little bit. I recommend at least 20 miles to account for the fact that the IP address that the person is opening the email with, might be on the other side of town. You don't want to show them the wrong store in there. Catherine, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, it makes me think of something that's happening right now in my city. Apparently, we're going to have. I live in Seattle. We're going to have, I guess, the biggest storm in 54 years. So, I mean, think about it. I went to the market last night, and there's not a lot of water left on the shelves, and there's a lot of things people need with homes. So, if you had a countdown clock and a map to the local store where I need to get some of these provisions for this big storm coming, that could be highly valuable to me and also really impactful. So. I definitely, I think opportunities, to do that in sort of real-time mode, aligned with holiday timing, get people giving them an overall better experience. Just good opportunities all around if you apply them in the right way.
Catherine, I'm going to ask if you maybe just walk us through this next example.
Sure, yeah. So this is an example email that I received. I think it was a holiday of 20. I guess it would have been 15. So I thought this was really innovative. It's Warby Parker, and I'm always looking for that perfect pair of glasses. I'm also not the best at keeping track of timelines around FSA and purchase timelines. So they sent out an email and took the bold move of actually including not just one, but 2 countdown clocks. So they were sharing the time left to purchase and by the website, and also the time left to purchase by phone. So you could really get that purchase in, claim those FSA dollars, have that awesome new pair of glasses. So I thought this was really innovative, completely aligned with the business objectives they have, selling both online and via phone, and also in store in some cases. I know they've opened up some stores in certain cities. So really, really interesting that they were able to kind of make that move and use a countdown clock in a really innovative way at the end of the year as those FSA dollars were expiring. And also in that really noisy season of December, get some inbox innovation that's really going to grab the consumer's attention.
Just a quick comment. Thanks, Catherine, for that. For those that are looking for a lot of like ROI metrics around these types of things, you can also go to LiveFlicker's website. It's realtime.email, and at the top there, there's a link that says resources, and if you click on that, there's like a bunch of different case studies, and we've got some for timers, we've got some for videos, polls, and whatnot. So that would be a great place if you want to pull down some more metrics. So kind of like switching the conversation a little bit here to metrics, one of the questions was what measurement indicates success or areas of improvement? So we're talking about holiday, right? We're on a very compressed timeline. I do still recommend, if you're going to use any real-time content, you do use it across multiple, at least 3 to 6 different types of deployments. That way you're able to collect enough data to understand what works for 2017. The point that I want to make here, this is actually brand new data. The people on the webinar today, you were the first to see this data. LiveFlicker has just conducted a study. We call it the 2016 Contextual Email Marketing Report. It's a 50-page report. It's not even available for download yet. We looked at over 1 billion impressions of different types of live data from June 2015 to June 2016, and we measured 2 different engagement proxy metrics. One is we looked at which types of real-time content were most likely to drive a click, and second, which types of real-time content were likely to lead people to leave an email message open for longer. We call that duration of open. It's a proxy metric for engagement in email. And one thing that you really want to think about, especially if you're thinking about like driving traffic to your site, think about the inherent, what we call interaction demand of each type of real-time content. For example, I showed you the Scratch to Reveal idea earlier. Scratch to Reveal is going to drive a lot of clicks because by its very nature, people want to scratch. People see that little lottery ticket experience and they want to click on it, they want to scratch. So it's natural, you'd expect to see a high click-through rate there. Things like personalized image animation. We're going to take a look at that technique with polling. We'll take a look at an example there too. Another great way to drive clicks. When you're thinking about some of these other things, not necessarily like the weather targeting that we looked at earlier, where you show the creative for the warm, creative for the cold, but if let's say you're going to put like a weather forecast in the email, or let's say you're going to put a store map in the email, you wouldn't necessarily expect to see a lot of clicks on that type of real-time content application in email, because you're not really trying to spur someone to do something in that email. You're trying to get them to go someplace offline. So when you think about your own metrics and how you're going to be measuring real-time content, think about that, in terms of measuring the traffic, measuring the clicks. Use those applications that are going to drive really high interaction demand. And then for the others, you really have to look at it over time, because the idea behind a lot of this type of content is to drive engagement with email, right? It's to create a better experience, to create interactive experiences with email that are going to engage our recipients so we can burst through some of that inbox fatigue. That's not necessarily something that you're going to see with a single email. That's something that you might see over a period of 6 months or a year as you measure your open rates. And all of us are battling declining open rates. So looking at that open rate, measuring it over time. One thing that I'll mention that I think was a really interesting finding that we took out of this study is we looked at a 2010 study run by our good friends over at Litmus, measuring how long people look at an average email before they delete it or they move on to the next one. Do you guys know how long the average person looked at an email? 2 seconds. 2 seconds. That's what you've got, 2 seconds. Then we looked at all of these emails that we measured over 2016 that had real-time content. And what we found is the average duration of open across all emails that included real-time content was 5.5 seconds, 5.5 seconds. So you're over double, almost triple your average duration of open. So again, that's a type of thing you might not necessarily see it in a one-off, but over time, as you create higher expectations with your subscribers, they begin to enjoy your program a little bit more, you're going to see better engagement. So just a couple of little data points for you here. Catherine, any comments on this before I move to our next example here?
No, I think this is really helpful insight around, the analytics and metrics part of this. And I would say, at some level, we know that a lot of what the impact of email is not completely being measured accurately. And we need to think of them as marketing impressions at some level that add to that overall consumer experience, as you mentioned, and really elevating that experience. And, that's going to drive, stronger engagement and stronger conversion over time, ultimately. So that's really great data to look at.
Cool. So a few more examples for you here. I have a polling example that I'd like to share. And by the way, guys, if you want to send yourselves any of these examples, you can go to our website, realtime.email. We have a little sample gallery there. You can plug in your email address. You can send yourself sample of timers, videos, poll, live reveal, any of these different things. Test it out yourself. Don't just take my word for it. But this is another really great example that's looking at something early in holiday and then hitting people with something later in holidays, using this idea of progressive profiling with live polling. So here we've got a great example from our friends at Zillow. We can basically take a look at these 4 different kitchens and we can vote on which one we like the best. Now, think about this, instead of maybe doing a kitchen, thinking what type of product do you like? Or who on your gift list is hardest to shop for. And based upon that polling result, you can actually show inside the email on an iOS device a special type of offer or special products right inside the email. So it's way you're quickly getting a vote based on that. Boom, you're showing something that's relevant to the recipient. Even if you don't use it right when the person opens up the email, you can always take this polling data and you can feed it back to your email service provider so that you can run another campaign that's segmenting people out based upon their indicated polling interest. So here's just an example poll. I go ahead and I click on the option. Because I'm on a desktop, it's going to vote in the browser. We can see the real-time polling results, or I could show some type of product in here. But again, if I were on a mobile device, we can actually show this right inside of the email. So the next example that I want to share is a slideshow, a live slideshow. So here I'm going to go ahead and click our play button. This is a Cyber Monday example. So one challenge that a lot of email marketers are facing, especially not only in holiday, but I think it's really accentuated even more in holiday, is we have a lot of different products we're pushing. Maybe some of us that we have to deal with like vendor marketing kind of stuff, where vendors are putting dollars into our programs, and we have to feature products from different vendors. This is a great way that you can conserve real estate inside the body of your email and also create additional engagement. So the way that slideshows work, if any of you've ever used like an image carousel inside of an email, where you can have like one product sliding and another product sliding, you can conserve the real estate. But now, and again, back to Catherine's point, 60% of all openings happen on a mobile device. Someone opens up this email on an iOS device, you can actually have each of these different images linked to a separate product page or a separate landing page. So again, don't have to stack them all up. Get triple the links, quadruple the links, same space in the email, plus it's a cool experience, right? Let's be honest with one another. So next is video, vetted video in email. So a lot of us have heard that historically vetting video in email is a terrible idea, it causes deliverability problems, rendering issues. Well, using real-time device detection, you can actually serve embedded video that plays in the body of an email message, such as the case in Apple Mail or in Outlook.com. Or you can have a video that when tapped in the mail client opens up full screen in a device's video player, such as the case you have on an iOS device. And going to a success metric, what we see is on average between 25 to 40% more video plays when running an 80 split test, embedded video versus a little thumbnail in the email with linked to a video that's playing only on your website. Again, make the content easier to consume, more people are going to consume it. It just makes logical sense, right? Also, some good case studies around video. You have cases anywhere between, 33% higher revenue per email delivered, 60% increase in conversion rate. I would say those are outliers, by the way, guys. Don't take my word. If you put video in email, you're going to see those kinds of results. But where I see it work really well is if you have a big product launch. If you've got something really special and you really want to drive that extra emotional impact, if you've got a really compelling story to tell through video, that would really be, a time to think about using video and actually bringing it all the way into the email message. Catherine, I'm curious what you think about this.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting use cases. I know we had talked a little bit about, sort of the big brand splash. I think you've got a good example here, but even like unboxing videos and, if like a subscription business has a great unboxing video and you want to use that as an opportunity to kind of help people understand, how to buy that as a gift and what that experience is going to be for the recipient. And so there's all types of things. And again, aligning it with your business goals and, the content that you have available, or building out some new content that's going to really support, making email and video work well together is kind of the goal there. But I think it can be really impactful. And understanding your customer base and subscriber base as well, as Justin said, understanding how many you have on iOS and, looking at the opportunity there and doing some testing is really key.
Yeah, for sure. I see we have a couple questions coming in, one from Peggy, some from Chris. Just doing a quick time check. We've only got 5 minutes. We've got a couple examples to go. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish those examples, and then we'll touch on all of the remaining questions in Q&A. Please do keep those questions coming in, guys. We'd love to see those questions. So just a quick takeaway for everyone here. If you're thinking about using embedded video in email, this is basically your pie chart breakdown. Not all email clients support embedded video and email. It's just that in the past, it would break in those mail clients that didn't support it. But now with real-time device detection, rather than breaking it, you can display an alternative image or an animation in an email. So this particular chart here is for B2C senders, not B2B. What we see is, on average, between 50 to 75% of all openers rendering one of two forms of embedded video, either a pure inline experience or a full screen experience. And some breaking news, iOS 10, which was just released a few weeks ago, supports embedded inline video on the iPad and embedded full screen video on the iPhone. So this is great news for those of us that have been using video and email before. We're reducing the number of taps required to play as our iOS 8 and iOS 9 people begin upgrading to iOS 10. So again, everyone's going to have a copy of this after. So I think this might be our last example, or second to last example. It's a shipping confirmation. The customer's talking about looking across the customer lifecycle. This is a type of email that's not necessarily going to drive more revenue, right? But huge no-brainer, guys. I mean, think about it. Think about our shipping confirmation emails today. You get the confirmation email, 80% of recipients open that shipping confirmation email. And why? Because, of course, we all want to know where the product's at after we want to know where the package is at after we've made the order. So why are we forcing people today to click on the link, log into FedEx, log into our website to see where the package is at? It's a nightmare. And then what happens is that people, they can't remember their password, or the email's not formatted properly when they click it. And so what do they end up doing? They end up calling the call center. So now you can use real-time context to show where the package is at in the email at the moment the email is open. And every subsequent time someone opens up this email, it's actually going to show the location of the package right then and there. Again, it's about delighting the customer, right? And then you think about some ways that we can maybe turn this vehicle into a bit of a revenue driver. Think about the latest offer. There's a little image tag in our shipping confirmation. What's our latest? We've got two-day shipping going on right now. And we might have a $25 loyalty points kind of special that we can feature in this email. Catherine, any comments on this before I go to our last one?
Yeah, I think it's a great example, and it adds a ton of value for consumers, saves some time, again, kind of makes that relationship stronger. And so all good.
Cool. So, Catherine, you mentioned earlier on sort of this idea of like personalization, making personalization easy. One thing that I've seen senders doing in Holiday before is basically printing someone's name on a label that's affixed to a gift image inside of the email. So you might have like a coffee mug with someone's name is printed on the side of it, or you've got a little gift box and there's a little tag hanging on, you've got someone's name on it. Well, one thing that you can do to drive engagement, and this is something, by the way, guys, I mean, this is cool. This is a personalized animated GIF. And if I go ahead, I think I can maybe even show this email here. See, we've got our little GIF up here in the hero slot. It's kind of cool, right? You can actually have an animated GIF in the email that displays someone's first name, right? It's just, how could you not see something like this and be motivated to do something, right? I mean, it's just, this is like next gen stuff. It's pretty cool. All right, we're gonna have to breeze through our 2017 holidays just because of time. I wanna make sure that we're getting to our questions. We do have some additional takeaways, live pricing inside of email. Can do even things like customized rewards bar charts that display inside of an email. You can see our little star right here moving up, all displaying at the moment of open, especially for someone maybe in travel. We want to show like the latest loyalty points or frequent flyer miles, some cool stuff we can do. We talked a little bit about weather forecasts earlier. Again, not necessarily the type of thing that's going to drive a lot of click-through rate, but especially maybe if you've got an offline location and you want someone to know what the weather forecast is like, you can tell them, hey, here's like the best day to go shopping. And oh, by the way, if there happens to be rain in the forecast coming up, you might even put a little message in there that says, oh, hey, it's raining outside. Here's like some rain merch or something like that. So, and we'll share all these. Everyone is going to have the deck after. We're going to wrap up with 2 polls and then Q&A. How likely are you to implement any of the ideas that we've shared in today's webinar? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch this poll. And still got really high attendance in here, which is great, guys. Go ahead and flip on back over from your email program or your PowerPoint or whatever it is you're working on right now, your spreadsheet. Move on back over here to the webinar, vote in the poll. We've got 43% of us have voted so far, 46. I know you have it, you guys. I know you can do it. 57% have voted. We'll go ahead and we'll leave the poll open for another 10 seconds here. We're at 59% have voted, 62%. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close the poll. 65% voted. So I don't know what you think, Catherine, but I'm really happy to see this percent of our audience. We inspired them enough that he's going to even sneak something in 2016, and 42%, 17%, not sure. So our last poll is we'd like you to quickly rate the quality of the content. It's just questions right after this. Let's go ahead and launch that poll. Let us know how we did, guys. We take this feedback very seriously. We use it when we're evaluating content for future webinars. Let us know if we did a bad job, good job. If we did a poor job, you know what? It's anonymous. We're not going to know if it was you or it was poor. You can go ahead.
And Justin, I was just going to chime in as people are completing the poll. We've got our contact information at the end of the deck, so we'll get that to everyone. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. It's that 17% where you're unsure, if you need some help down the path and kind of thinking through some use cases. We would love to continue the conversation, so you've got our contact information as well if you need to reach out.
Great. So we'll go ahead and we'll share the poll results. Thanks so much, guys. 36% excellent. I wish it was flip-flop where 45 was excellent, 36% very good. Definitely appreciate the feedback. No one rated us for today, so thank you very much for that. Here's our contact information, as Catherine was mentioning. Reach me, Justin, at liveflicker.com. Catherine is cmcgoffin@shawscott.com. You can follow us on Twitter at realtimeemail and at shawscott. And with that, I think we are ready to finish our questions. All right. So let's go ahead and pull our questions out here. All right. So the first question that I want to tackle is, I think I answered this one from Chris about the ROI metrics. Hopefully he was able to share some good examples there. You can also download others, realtime.email, click on resources, download some case studies there. I think we tackled the measurement indicates success or areas of improvement. Here's a question from Clarissa. I think this might be a question for you, Catherine. The question is, the majority of our customers or target market is in the 55 to 80-year-old bracket, and they are loyal and enjoy the email sent. What is the best way to appeal to this demographic that won't overwhelm them? Any thoughts on that?
Good question. Well, I think it starts with, you know your customer, so it starts there. Also with the type of, kind of digging into, what is your objective? Or, I don't know if you're a retail site or, what the focus is, but, understanding the end goal in that life cycle and where those high engagement points are, and really adding value and innovation to that experience. So it could be a lot of different things. But I think the key is really, coming up with those hypotheses, as we talked about earlier, kind of getting them all out on the table, have a planning session, really kind of think about these things, line up some testing opportunities and test them and understand, how is that, is it video and personalization of, that animated GIF that's really delighting them in the inbox? Is it adding value in transactional messaging like the delivery shipment that Justin showed you? It could be any number of things. And, I think even folks that are kind of in that age band are still going to want to save time and have a really great experience with the brand. And, so you're able to offer some of that with these new innovations. But testing is really key, understanding, where to focus and then building out some tests and getting that input from your consumers as well as you're deploying these things. But would love to have, more detailed conversation. And again, I think it all needs to kind of line up with your understanding your target base, which you do, and then understanding what the goals are and where you can best apply these things across programs and across lifecycle touch points.
Yeah. Can't argue with anything you said there, Catherine. I'll just add, Clarissa, this is not as good of an answer, but you're dealing with an older demographic, if you've got a physical location, think about things like maps. Maybe people are a little bit more comfortable transacting offline. I think definitely, to Catherine's point, like the shipping confirmation is, a bit of a no-brainer if you're shipping products online. It's just a way to reduce calls. So that would be my response there. Question from Chris. I think this might also be for you, Catherine. During the holidays, should you shift your emails to support the conversion part of the sales funnel, or is there no shift in the sales funnel because of the time of season? Does it only depend on the customer type?
Interesting question. I think I'm understanding it clearly. I think the opportunity for conversion for retailers, clearly, we're in the season. So I do think that, I guess sometimes I've seen sales prevention tactics, happening in the market. So if I'm there to buy, and if I want to buy as quickly as possible, and I, want that personalized experience, I want brands to be using the data about me to make that experience more streamlined and get me to the products I want and need. Focus on conversion. If, depending on the business, again, it goes back to that, is this a B2B thing or is it a B2C retail gift type item that we're talking about? Depending on the business, it's going to be a different answer. But I say, conversion, it is the conversion season. Consumers are starting to think about holidays. We just went through back to school, another big buying season. And, if that's the name of the game for your business, make that process more streamlined, and things like the Warby Parker, 2 countdown clocks in an email. That's all about, adding value, making it easier for the consumer to remember those dates and times that they need to pay attention to. But ultimately, it drives that conversion for Warby Parker because I know I need to jump in and buy those frames. So I hope that answers your question. I think I understood it. But Justin, anything to add there? Did I get?
No, I have nothing to add to that. But if you have questions additional on that, Chris, email Catherine or myself after. You can definitely take them up on email. Next question is from Peggy. Is the 60% mobile open rate stat for B2C only? I'll just share on the LiveClicker side. It's not B2C only for us, but our client base is 95% B2C, so the data does tend to skew B2C. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think B2C.
Okay. Next question, of all these examples, which of these ideas perform better in mobile? So I'll just share with you, Chris, some of the ones that are mobile optimized. Polls, live reveals, the scratch to reveal, video. Those are probably the biggest ones, and then slideshows. Say those are more optimized for a mobile environment. So those would be, if you're looking specifically for things to kind of hit on in mobile, that's probably where I would start. And then there's a question from Chris. What do you use to create an animated GIF? How do you pass the value? So I'll just answer that from a LiveClicker kind of tech perspective. The value is passed just like a regular personalization field that you would, like a merge field that you pass into the email, just like you put someone's first name in the email. It's just that personalization field, or that merge field, is actually appended to an image tag. And when the email is opened up, there's a request to the LiveClicker server, and we have software on the LiveClicker side that renders that GIF. I don't know specifically more than that, but just know we have a process to render it on our end. And then there's a question from Josh. Basically, my organization uses Trustpilot as a vendor to solicit donor feedback post-donation or e-commerce purchase. They offer widgets for the website to cycle through reviews like a carousel. Is that something we can implement in our email, pulling from the Trustpilot review feeds? The answer to that is probably, but hit us up offline and let you know for sure. Any more questions? We've gone 10 minutes over on our webinar here today. We appreciate everyone that's stuck around. If there are no more questions, we will go ahead and we'll wrap it up. Thank you to everyone for joining us here today. We know you're all extremely busy and have a lot on your plate. We do really appreciate your time. Catherine, thanks so much for joining us here at LiveClicker and sharing some of the awesome strategic advice and counsel that is provided by Shaw Scott. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks so much, Justin. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.